Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, The Things I Do for My Health. Now, I'm not going to be one of those people who has that clickbait thing of, you come onto the channel and you have to pretty much listen to 25 minutes of a 30-minute video of rambling and then you get what you want in the last 5 minutes. I'm going to cut to the chase here. Garlic. This is what no other YouTube channel told me that I was watching when I was watching about the health benefits of this. Every Google search page I went onto, the benefits of garlic, never told me this. I had to learn this firsthand for myself. Garlic burns. Garlic will give you chemical burns if you put it directly onto your skin. There we go. If that's what you wanted to know, you can now stop watching the video and carry on. But I'm going to just explain to you how I learned this firsthand because nobody else warned me about this. I discovered from another site many years ago that garlic is actually the top anti-cancer fighting food in the world. And this was apparently discovered when a whole lot of different foods, I think it was like broccoli and celery and onions and garlic and everything, they literally took the juice from these various foods and they dropped it directly onto cancer cells. And garlic is the food that had the best results for most cancers. It is not the top cancer fighting food for all cancers, but overall it turned out to be the absolute best. Anyway, so if you've seen my other video with regards to, I think it's the top 5 natural products that have worked for me, I can say like has worked for me brilliantly. One of the things I talk about is when I had underarm infections, and they ended up becoming recurring underarm infections that started in 2020, and then it would come back a couple of months later, like 18 months later, and then after that it would come back like 12 months later, until eventually I was just getting these infections all the time, which seems to have been caused by shaving, even though I've never had them before in my life. And the only thing that would clear it was taking penicillin. Every time I would try natural remedies first until eventually it just got too much. I would end up with like 5 to 10 of these infected lumps under each arm. And it was obviously quite painful. And then eventually I'm like, okay, nothing I'm doing is working. Let me go to the doctor. They would prescribe me penicillin, it would clear up, and then when another infection came along, I would kind of be reinvigorated to try natural remedies again until having to go back onto penicillin. And it was only when I had the last infection last year that I realized through another video that I was watching on this website, chrisbeatcancer.com, where they were talking about how when you have infections, and the infections under my arm were bacterial, or else the penicillin wouldn't have worked. They were talking about how when your body is fighting an infection, it can use up to 20 times vitamin C. And I realized I wasn't consuming enough vitamin C with these infections. So when I had the last one, I was consuming up to 15,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day. And just the vitamin C alone cleared the infection. I haven't had those infections ever since, because I maintain now a vitamin C level of 4,500 to 6,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day. And that seems to keep the infections away. But before I realized that, I decided I was going to try some garlic, because if it's bacterial, I was consuming garlic, but I thought, let me try it topically on the infections under my arms, because this is antimicrobial, it's antibacterial, it's antiviral, this is like, oh, sorry, this is a little powerhouse. This little thing is just packed full of goodness. So one thing I learned is that there is a compound, a chemical compound, or a compound in using words, I'm not even sure if I'm saying the right thing. There's a compound in garlic called allicin, and allicin, not the girl's name, ALLCIN, something like that. You have to activate allicin in order for it to work. And so what I was doing at one stage, I heard, consuming raw garlic's good for you, and like cutting it and then trying to swallow it with water. No, you've got to crush it or chop it in order to activate the allicin compound. So what I did is I crushed a clove of garlic. I put it onto a plaster and I stuck it under my arm onto the infection, and I left it. And boy, did it sting and burn. And I could feel it was really painful, but I left it because I remembered from a kid, sometimes if I'd cut myself and, get some topical ointment that got put on top of it, it would sting because you've got an open wound and it's just reacting to it. So for me, it was like, okay, this is just it's reacting to having something put on it. So I just ignored it and I pushed through it, and it was really, really bad, but I pushed through it until when I took the plaster off, I could see that the skin had actually burnt. It was red, it was blistering, literally. I saw a picture of this one woman who packed raw garlic onto her knee. There was, I don't know what was on her knee, but somebody told her, oh, raw garlic will be good, and she left it overnight. And the picture, oh my word, the skin, there was no skin on her knee. It actually like eroded the skin off her knee. That she had to have painkillers. She had to have antibiotics to stop any infections. So for me, it was nowhere near that bad. I only had it on for like an hour or 2 hours, but you could see it was red and it was blistering. So I put on, raw honey and coconut oil and things like that. And where the garlic had burnt, the skin went brown. And I just thought to myself, I think I've ruined myself a bit for summertime wearing costumes, lift my arms up and there's going to be these brown patches. And I'm like, oh dear, this probably wasn't a good idea. And then after a couple of weeks, I noticed flakes coming off. And then wherever the brown patches were, there were dead skin flakes that were coming off. I was like, wow, okay. And then I went and I could take the flakes off. They were like pretty much falling off. And underneath the skin flakes, the skin was perfect again. Perfectly white, smooth skin, as if nothing had ever happened. And I realized, okay, so, it was obviously just healing underneath there, and everything was great again. So I learned the hard way, because I've never come across this before. Maybe you have. Maybe you're like, Amanda, you're a moron. Who doesn't know that garlic burns? I didn't know that garlic gives you chemical burns. I was like, okay, so I learned that the hard way. But, and if you're still watching, good for you, because you're going to find out some interesting news about how this, and learning the hard way that this gives chemical burns, how this actually helped me to clear up something else that I had. And you'll know about this if you watched my other video on do I have skin cancer. And in that video, I talk about a mark that I've had on my leg for more than 10 years that I suspect was basal cell carcinoma, which is the most common and the non-deadly form of skin cancer, because this kind of came up on my leg out of nowhere. I just ignored it. I just thought it was something that would go away, to the point where I just got so used to it being there that it didn't even occur to me it wasn't even healing, until a couple of months ago I noticed it was actually looking a little bit bigger. And to have something, a mark on your leg that's not healing and to eventually grow, is usually a sign of skin cancer. And I'm not speaking as an expert at all. This is purely what I've read up on the internet. So for a short while, I was trying a horse deworming paste, which contained ivermectin, because I have read that ivermectin is actually very, very successful in curing cancer. But whether or not it's the oral or the paste for skin cancer, or if it's just better for other cancers, I don't know. I was just giving it a try. It's cheaper than ivermectin paste. And just to point out that it was a paste that contained ivermectin. It was not ivermectin paste. Maybe an ivermectin paste would have worked, but what I was using didn't really seem to have much effect. At first it did look like it was maybe starting to clear up a bit, because it went from being quite dark to times where it was lightening up a bit. But as you can see, it didn't look good. And this is what I had on my leg for years and years. So then I decided, now I knew that garlic gives chemical burns, and I also knew that garlic is the top cancer fighting food in the world. I just couldn't remember which cancers garlic was best for. I know that there is one of the cancers where garlic isn't the best one. I couldn't remember if it was skin cancer or not, but you know what? I thought, what the heck? I'm just going to give this a try. I'm just going to nuke this little sucker that's on my leg. So that's what I did. I chopped up a clove, I put a little bit of it onto a plaster, and I stuck it onto my leg. And then I went into the lounge and I sat down and I watched a movie. And I could feel discomfort. You know, after a while I'm like, I'm feeling a bit of discomfort. Like, I can't figure out what it is. And then I realized, like, oh yeah, my leg's burning. I could literally feel it burning, and it was causing discomfort to a point where I forgot about it, but I could still feel something was uncomfortable. And then after about an hour, I took the plaster off, and I could see that the mark that was on my leg, as well as the skin around the mark where the garlic had been touching, was red and inflamed. And I'm super bummed that I did not think at the time to take a picture of it. But anyway, so I left it, and I knew now what was going to happen because I had learned the first time from under my arms. I knew it was going to scab up. So I just made sure I was going to apply the correct things onto it to help it to heal, and I was putting on castor oil or coconut oil or aloe vera gel, and eventually it became generally the aloe vera gel that I was putting on. And I kept putting it on until eventually, yes, it did peel off, and I carried on applying the gel. This is what my leg looks like now. It has healed up so well that when I took a picture of my leg, even if I look down at my leg, I can no longer see where the mark was. I cannot see straight away where it is. I literally have to stare at my leg or stare at the picture to try and figure out. In fact, to show here where the mark was, I had to compare it to a before picture just to try and figure out where it was. So this worked for me. It is not something I recommend for other people, because I'm not going to recommend people go out and burn themselves. This is not about that. This is what I'm doing for my health. And giving myself a chemical burn on a non-healing mark on my leg worked for me. And I'm now going to see, and I'll put this in another video, whether or not it's going to work for my husband as well. Because after my success with this, he then said to me he's got a mark on his leg that is not healing, and he has now asked me to try and use the same remedy on him to see if it works. So if you're interested, hang around. It'll probably be 2 weeks or so before I can post another video about it, because we've got to give it time to heal. But let's see if it works for my husband as well, because it certainly worked for me. So this is actually a precautionary tale. Please be careful. Like I said, I learned this the hard way. It did work to my benefit, because then I did use the benefits of this knowledge, for my leg. It might not have worked, but I don't mind being my own guinea pig. That's what I love about, having the choice of finding things out. I don't just read things on the internet or watch videos and just wonder, is this good or is this bad? What I learn and what I see that could be of benefit to me, I've got no problem of trying it on myself. I don't mind that, and I just love that I've got the freedom to do that. And so I have learned, by trying things out on myself, what does work for me, what doesn't work for me, so that I can, eliminate certain things. Some things I might not see any benefits from, but I do know it's good for me. There could be certain supplements that I take. It's fine, whatever. But I've now learned that there are a lot of benefits with garlic, but you do have to be careful with it, because it is a food item that, if not used correctly, you can cause yourself some damage. So that's my story. I hope it helped. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe, and then you can see other crazy, silly, fun, beneficial things that I've done for my health. See you in the next video. Cheers for now. Bye.